My pleasure.
You look great. Good. You look good. I'm going to miss you. I don't know what the future holds.
We're going to merge our two farms.
I love you.
I love you too.
Zoe Walker, a talented food scientist specializing in creating a wide range of food flavors, finds herself in the laboratory today, as usual. She is engrossed in the art of crafting flavors that tantalize the taste buds. Amid her work, Zoe's colleague accidentally bumps into her, causing the contents she was meticulously measuring to spill. With a quick attempt to clean up the mess, she notices the entire lab employee's attention suddenly shifts to the large screen, which flickers to life. To their surprise, Zoe's boss, the CEO of Star Creamer Company, Mr. Gobbs, appears on the screen. It is evident that today is the day when he will unveil the best flavor created by one of their employees, which will be featured in their upcoming product. Filled with anticipation, Zoe takes a deep breath, momentarily holding it, as her heart races with excitement. The sound of her colleagues clapping fills the room as Mr. Gobbs delivers a short speech, eventually announcing the new flavor, Cinnalicious, created by none other than Zoe Walker. Hearing this, her eyes still closed, Zoe slowly opens them, realizing that her flavor has triumphed. Zoe is surrounded by applause from her colleagues, feeling incredibly honored that her flavor has been chosen. She never even dreamed that something like this would be possible. After spending countless hours in the lab, conducting extensive market analysis, she confidently proclaims to everyone that this flavor is guaranteed to be the brand's most popular ever. Amidst the clapping, Mr. Gobbs addresses the rest of the staff and then approaches Zoe. He explains to her that millennials care about the story behind their food, the farm where it is grown, the company that produces it, etc. Zoe informs him that Cinnalicious was created in the lab. Mr. Gobbs expresses his concern, reminding Zoe of their previous product's failure in the market. He tells her that they can't afford to repeat that mistake. This time, he wants to use real coffee beans from a genuine farm, something natural for this product. He instructs Zoe to find a company with an interesting background story that will impress their consumers. In return for her efforts, Mr. Gobbs reveals that he is sending Zoe to Colombia to search for a farm with an intriguing story. If she succeeds, she will be in charge of running the lab as her own. Zoe is now in the vibrant city of Medellin, Colombia. She wastes no time in her quest to find a coffee company with a captivating story. Until today, her search has been fruitless. However, things take a turn as she stumbles upon a warehouse belonging to a coffee bean farmer. Unfortunately, the quality of the beans available doesn't impress her, and the farm's history fails to ignite her interest. Just when Zoe is about to give up, a distinct aroma of brewing coffee fills the air, capturing her senses. Intrigued, she follows her nose, leading her to the table of an elderly lady who happens to be a fortune teller. Zoe is offered a cup of coffee by the old lady, who instructs her to sip from the side only. As the rich aroma fills her senses, Zoe takes a sip, and is instantly transported by the incredible taste, undoubtedly the best coffee she has ever had. Mesmerized by the experience, Zoe sits down and hands the cup back to the fortune teller. Seizing the moment, the fortune teller begins to read Zoe's future. Encouraged by the fortune teller to say her wish aloud, Zoe reveals her deepest wish, to own her own lab. The fortune teller smiles mysteriously and predicts that Zoe's journey will be long, but assures her that her wish will ultimately come true. Eager for more insight, Zoe suggests that the fortune teller disclose the secret to obtaining this exceptional coffee, believing it may hold the key to realizing her dream. The fortune teller sets her own cup aside and weaves a captivating tale. Deep within the wild forest lies the coveted coffee, sought after by many, but often denied. It is a coffee that goes straight from the farm to the cup, untainted by intermediaries. The fortune teller further reveals that the company behind this remarkable coffee is known as the Dancing Coffee Plantation, where Zoe will find a man named Diego Valdez. Zoe embarks on a quest to search for the owner of these incredible beans that have the power to make her dreams come true. Armed with the address given by the fortune teller, she arrives at an old, seemingly abandoned building. Calling out for anyone, she is relieved when a lady emerges. Despite her limited English, Zoe is grateful that the lady understands her and explains her quest to find the Dancing Goat Coffee Plantation. To Zoe's surprise, the lady points up the mountain. Feeling a mix of astonishment, anxiety, and trepidation, Zoe realizes she must undertake a long and perilous climb up the mountain to reach her destination. Fortunately, she enlists the aid of one of the village vigilantes, who guides her through a wooded bridge and up the mountain. The journey is fraught with fear, and amidst her anxiety, Zoe accidentally drops her phone into the flowing river. After submerging herself in water, she manages to retrieve it. Finally, after what feels like an arduous trek, Zoe arrives at the door of the old building on the mountain. As she knocks, a young man answers and inquires about her purpose for knocking at such a late hour. Zoe introduces herself as a representative of the Creamer Company, a coffee buyer who has come to purchase coffee beans from Diego Valdez. Her statement immediately triggers a surge of anger in the young man. He summons his aunt, and to Zoe's astonishment, the old lady fortune teller appears before her. Curious about her sudden presence in such a short while, Zoe inquires how the fortune teller managed to return home so quickly. In response, the fortune teller reminds Zoe that fate had predicted her embarking on a long and distant journey. Before they can delve further into their conversation, Diego interrupts, vehemently expressing his refusal to sell his coffee beans to Zoe. He goes as far as proclaiming that he would rather see his plantation burn to the ground than cooperate with her. Unfazed by his outburst, the old lady encourages Zoe to hold on to hope and remember that her wishes will eventually come true. Eager to guide her, she leads Zoe to a comfortable room in the barn where she can spend the night. Meanwhile, Diego's anger continues to simmer, fueled by his belief that Zoe plans to devalue his treasured coffee beans. Seeking to enlighten him, his aunt pays him a visit in his room. She reminds him of his constant worry regarding the lack of recognition for their coffee. Viewing Zoe's arrival as an opportunity rather than a threat, she urges Diego to seize this chance to teach her the true worth and potential of their coffee beans. In her eyes, their plantation's revival hinges upon Zoe's understanding and appreciation of their product, marking it as their final opportunity to turn their fortunes around. Zoe just finished taking a bath and is getting ready to put on her nightwear when Diego enters her room. He is shocked and embarrassed to see her undressed, causing a bit of commotion as she hurriedly covers herself with a towel. Apologizing, Diego hands her the food he brought. He explains that he listened to his aunt's advice and is willing to make an exception for Zoe. However, he asks her to promise not to add any flavors to the coffee beans, as it might ruin their taste. Zoe tries to convince him that adding flavors can actually enhance the taste, but Diego insists that he will only give her his prized coffee beans if they remain untainted. Reluctantly, Zoe agrees. Diego then mentions another condition. Zoe must stay throughout the harvest and help with the frying process. Zoe suggests that her company can handle the frying, but Diego firmly believes that the secret to his amazing coffee lies in the frying process. He gives her until 6 the next morning to think it over before the harvesting begins. The next morning, Zoe joins Diego and the other workers as they carefully pick the coffee beans. Diego takes the time to teach her the intricacies of the harvesting process. Suddenly, Zoe spots a familiar face among the workers. It turns out to be Olivia, the woman who described this place to Zoe. To Zoe's surprise, Olivia is actually Diego's ex-girlfriend, who recently returned from her travels. Diego takes her aside and confronts her, expressing his disappointment that she left without any communication, and now expects everything to be fine between them. Concerned about potentially complicating things between Diego and Olivia, Zoe asks Diego about it. Diego reassures her, nodding his head and saying that it won't be a problem. Later, Zoe goes back to her room and seeks out the fortune teller, Ty. She asks Ty if she can borrow her computer for a moment. Ty kindly points her towards a room where Zoe can make a video call. Zoe contacts Mr. Gobbs and shares the exciting news that she has found the perfect coffee with an amazing story for their product. Mr. Gobbs is thrilled to hear this and mentions that it could be a fantastic addition to their product line, particularly Cinnalicious, which Zoe created. However, before Zoe can explain that the seller insists on selling the coffee in its original flavor, Mr. Gobbs becomes agitated and abruptly ends the conversation. Zoe is in the midst of picking beans. Olivia approaches her and offers to show her a harvesting trick. Olivia points to a specific branch. As Zoe bends down to gather the beans, she notices a small frog perched on the branch. Olivia comments on the frog's beauty and suggests that Zoe pick it up. Unknown to Olivia, the frog is actually a dart frog, known for its poisonous skin that can be deadly to humans. Upon seeing what Olivia is up to, Diego sees the danger and uses a stick to sweep away the frog. He then questions Olivia, expressing his disbelief at her disregard for safety. Taking Zoe away from the farm, Diego guides her to a different room, where she can operate a machine used for deshelling the beans. This ensures her safety and allows her to continue her work without any further risks. Diego confronts Olivia and asks her what happened to make her pull that dangerous prank with Zoe. Olivia, on the other hand, questions Diego about his relationship with Zoe, knowing how strongly he feels about not selling the plantation to commercial companies. Diego responds by saying that a lot of time has passed, and he wonders if Olivia truly knows him anymore. Diego is grappling with doubts about the sale of his beans to the Kremer company. During lunch, his Aunt Ty raises a concern, questioning why he's being so tough on Zoe. She reminds him that he's subjecting her to unfamiliar challenges, especially given the dangerous nature of the land, and she lacks the necessary knowledge and experience to protect herself. Diego explains to his aunt that he's teaching Zoe about the entire process so she can truly appreciate the essence of the coffee bean. However, he confesses that he's reevaluating his decision to sell to the Kremer company. He ponders whether Olivia's return is a sign that he shouldn't proceed with the sale. He harbors doubts about Zoe's intentions, and he wonders if his parents, who dedicated their lives to cultivating the plantation, would approve of selling their product to a fast food chain. Aunt Ty offers reassurance, assuring him that his parents would want him to forge his own path, and make independent decisions. Diego pays a visit to the farm and is pleasantly surprised to find that Zoe has devised a more efficient method for transporting the picked beans from the fields to the storage area. She has ingeniously set up a system using ropes, allowing the bucket of beans to smoothly glide through. Not only that, but she has also created a similar setup for the pulverized bean machine. Diego is deeply impressed by Zoe's resourcefulness and sharp intellect. Diego teaches Zoe the method their coffee bean is processed. After the beans have been picked, pulverized, and washed, they are left to sun-dry outside to remove moisture. Zoe eagerly asks Diego when she can begin roasting the beans. He assures her that the time will come. In the meantime, Diego explains to her that while many coffee bean farmers use mechanical dryers, he believes there's nothing as effective and authentic as the gentle warmth of the climbing sun. He hands her a rake and instructs her to spread the beans out to maximize heat exposure. As she tries it out, Zoe remarks on the demanding nature of the task, playfully noting that Diego's biceps must be in peak condition from all the hard work. Diego chuckles at her attempt to flirt with him, appreciating her lighthearted comment. As Zoe continues raking the beans with unwavering focus, a brilliant idea suddenly strikes her. She swiftly grabs some small logs and skillfully attaches them to the side, creating a clever contraption that can be turned to spread the beans apart more efficiently. Diego is taken aback by her innovative thinking and creative problem-solving skills. Intrigued, he asks Zoe how she managed to come up with such a brilliant concept. With confidence, she replies that she has always had a knack for finding solutions, being both creative and innovative. Diego's admiration for her soars even higher, recognizing her remarkable talents. Eager to learn more about Zoe's past achievements, Diego inquires about the last significant idea she had. Beaming with excitement, Zoe reveals that she once invented a delightful pastry called the glow nut, a colorful croissant donut that enjoyed tremendous success in the market. Diego is genuinely impressed by her entrepreneurial spirit and remarkable accomplishments. Finally, the moment they've been waiting for arrives. Diego reveals to Zoe that she is now ready to roast the beans. Her face lights up with joy, as she has been eagerly anticipating this milestone. The air is filled with a sense of excitement and anticipation as Zoe prepares to take this crucial step in their coffee-making journey. Diego leads Zoe into the coffee bean roasting room. He ignites the stoves, sharing that he learned the art of roasting from his father, a tradition passed down through generations. Diego explains the first step, adding a small amount of beans to the hot frying pan and listening for the popping sound. As Zoe reaches for the wooden ladle, their hands accidentally touch, creating a moment of connection between them. Inquisitive about Olivia, Zoe asks Diego about her. Diego reveals that Olivia's absence has caused significant problems, particularly because they had plans to merge their farms, but she left him for a man who has now dumped her, and she's now back for him. He asks Zoe to continue roasting the beans while he retrieves more. Meanwhile, there's a knock at the door, and Auntie Ty responds to it. She opens the door and sees Olivia. She asks her what she's doing, after all the trouble she caused by leaving Diego heartbroken, requiring him to be nursed back to health. Olivia apologizes and asks to come in. Aunt Ty, with a heavy sigh, opens the door and lets Olivia in. Olivia enters the room and sees Zoe roasting the beans. She tells her that she's here to apologize for her prior behavior. Zoe tells her she isn't ready for any more pranks, and Olivia, in a sarcastic tone, asks her what kind of scientist she is, if she cures cancer or designs space shuttles. Zoe responds to her that she designs flavors. Zoe then acknowledges her effort in coming over, but mentions that she isn't in the mood to talk to her. Olivia becomes angry and declares to her that the beans she's handling are hers. Zoe smiles and responds, telling her that she is pretty sure the beans are Diego's. Olivia picks up a burning stick from the fire and lights a bag of coffee beans before walking away. Zoe begins to panic and calls for help to extinguish the flames. Diego enters the room and sees Zoe in a state of panic. She is unsure how Diego will react. He tells her to leave everything she's doing. He wants to take her out for some fun. Zoe hastily gets dressed and meets Diego outside. He compliments her outfit, and they hop onto his motorcycle. Diego speeds off towards the only bar in their community, where lively Latin music fills the air. Inside the small bar, Olivia's anger flares up as soon as she spots Diego accompanied by Zoe. She confronts Diego, demanding to know why he brought Zoe to their special place. Diego explains that there is no other option, since it's the only bar around. Zoe and Diego immerse themselves in the vibrant atmosphere, enjoying games and indulging in drinks. Eventually, they decide to head back home. Just as they near their house, Diego suggests they continue the journey on foot from that point. As both walk, he holds Zoe's hand and confides in her, expressing his desire to keep things uncomplicated between them, knowing that she will be leaving in a few days. However, he also confesses that he genuinely likes her. Moved by his words, Zoe feels a surge of emotions as Diego pulls her closer for a passionate kiss. Upon arriving home, the intensity of their passion grows. They begin to kiss fervently, hastily opening the door to Diego's room. To their astonishment, they find Olivia seated on the bed. And they are both embarrassed. Olivia tells Diego that she came to talk to him, and he responds that for years, he just wanted to talk to her. she left without saying goodbye. He apologizes for not being able to be with her, stating that he deserves someone he can trust. Diego then asks her to stay in the guest room. As she leaves, he apologizes to Zoe for the embarrassment and confesses that he had fun tonight. Zoe goes to bed, unable to put her thoughts in place. The next morning, she wakes up with a banging headache from last night's drinking. She goes over to the veranda and sees Olivia having breakfast. Zoe asks permission from Ty to use her laptop to speak to Mr. Gobbs. She reaches him via Skype, and as soon as he appears on the screen, Zoe wastes no time in informing him that they cannot compromise the flavor of the coffee bean, as demanded by the farm's owner. She proposes sourcing a new bean from an alternative supplier to preserve the integrity of Sinalicious. Displeased with the news, Mr. Gobbs issues an ultimatum, demanding that Zoe bring the new bean back to complement their new brand flavor, or face termination. Zoe knows she needs to speak to Diego immediately, so she approaches him and tells him she has something important to share. Diego responds that he also has something to tell her. Zoe takes a deep breath and asks him to go first. Diego starts by apologizing for the incident that happened with Olivia the night before. He expresses that he will miss Zoe when she leaves, acknowledging the distance between where they both live as a core issue, but he's grateful to have met her and hopes they can work things out. Zoe reassures him that she feels the same way. Curious, Diego urges her to tell him what she wanted to say. However, Zoe quickly changes her mind and instead tells him that she plans to make the perfect roast today. Diego smiles warmly and kisses her hand. Unknown to Zoe, Olivia has surreptitiously been listening in on her conversation with her boss. Upon learning about Zoe's boss's insistence on using the coffee bean in the Sinalicious product, Olivia becomes determined to gather solid evidence to expose the truth to Diego. As Zoe busies herself with roasting the beans, Olivia stealthily sneaks into her room, rummaging through her belongings in search of incriminating proof. Eventually, her efforts pay off when she stumbles upon documented evidence detailing how Diego's beans will be utilized. Armed with this crucial information, Olivia rushes to Diego to unveil the shocking truth. Meanwhile, Zoe finishes roasting the beans to perfection and excitedly prepares a sample to serve to Diego. However, upon entering his room, she is taken aback by the unexpected sight of Olivia standing alongside him. Diego confronts Zoe, revealing the damning document and expressing his devastation at realizing her betrayal. Zoe immediately apologizes, insisting that she had always intended to reveal the truth. Desperate to salvage the situation, she pleads with Diego to consider her request so that the bags of precious beans won't go to waste. However, Diego firmly responds that he no longer needs the Kremer company to save his farm. He solemnly announces that he has rekindled his engagement with Olivia and that they will merge their farms together and do business together. In the midst of this tense confrontation, Olivia sneers at Zoe and coldly instructs her to leave, declaring that she has already called a taxi. Zoe finds herself in tears, feeling the weight of all her time and effort going to waste. The dream she had of owning her own lab now feels like a distant memory. Filled with disappointment, she quickly books an early flight back to her home base. As soon as Zoe arrives home, her phone rings. It's Mr. Gobbs on the line. In a trembling voice, she informs him that the mission was not accomplished. A wave of disappointment washes over her as Mr. Gobbs expresses he is aware of her fertile trip. He's regretting the substantial funds invested in the project and the proposed campaign to launch the product. Without hesitation, he delivers the harsh news: she is fired. Zoe's heart breaks, the weight of the situation leaving her utterly crushed. Meanwhile, in Colombia, Olivia revels in the fact that Zoe is no longer a threat. She seizes the opportunity to invite Diego to visit her part of the farm. Curiously, Diego accepts the invitation and makes his way to Olivia's farm. However, upon arrival, he is taken aback by the drastic changes he witnesses. The once manual process of processing the coffee beans has been replaced by impersonal machines. Diego realizes that this transformation compromises the authenticity and originality of the beans. Expressing his concern, he shares his observations with Olivia, hoping she will understand. But to his surprise, Olivia dismisses his worries, stating that the change doesn't matter much to her. She believes that this new method opens doors for her to explore other opportunities, seemingly unfazed by the loss of tradition and quality. After Zoe's departure, Diego is consumed by a profound sense of remorse. He realizes that he has made a grave mistake. Overwhelmed by his emotions, he musters the courage to call Olivia and expresses his decision to end their relationship. He candidly reminds her of the past, when she left him for another man, and he refuses to be someone's second choice. Diego firmly declares that he has opted to sell the coffee beans to the Kremer company, severing all ties with Olivia. Meanwhile, amidst her grief, Zoe experiences a spark of inspiration. A brilliant idea for a unique and captivating drink, blending a combination of flavors, floods her mind. Driven by excitement, she surreptitiously sneaks into the lab at night, determined to bring her idea to life. Working diligently, she crafts a sample of an energy drink derived from the coffee bean skins. Zoe's heart fills with joy and anticipation as she envisions the potential success of her innovative creation. The following day, Zoe musters the courage to present her discovery to Mr. Gobbs. As she enters his office, she is met with an apprehensive response, and security is called. Undeterred, Zoe politely requests a moment to pitch her groundbreaking product. With conviction, she offers Mr. Gobbs a sample of the drink, inviting him to experience its exceptional taste. To his astonishment, the flavors dance upon his palate, leaving him captivated. Zoe then reveals that her creation is completely natural and organic, derived solely from the skins of coffee beans. Mr. Gobbs is awestruck by the ingenuity and purity of Zoe's creation, recognizing its immense potential. Diego is set to travel to see Zoe. He asks to use his Aunt Ty's laptop to book a ticket. Aunt Ty tells him she's proud of him and his decision to reconcile with Zoe and sell his product to her company. Just then, there's a commotion outside. Going out, Diego realizes his whole warehouse filled with bags of coffee beans is on fire. The sight is devastating, and he holds onto his aunt and comforts her. Out of nowhere, Olivia appears. She sarcastically tells him she's sorry about the fire, and now he cannot sell to the Kremer company. He immediately knows she set his warehouse on fire out of jealousy, and he vows he will pursue this legally. The next day, he books the flight, and on his way to the airport, he realizes he forgot his passport and hurries to get it. On the other hand, Zoe is applauded for her genius creativity. She is asked to go back to Colombia to source the bean, and she books her flight in hopes of seeing Diego and convincing him to sell his product. She also misses him. Coincidentally, she arrives at the airport at the same time as Diego is entering. They both meet and are surprised. He tells her he was coming to see her, and she tells him the same thing. She hints at her new product, which is better and natural with no additives. He tells her he broke up with Olivia, and she set his warehouse on fire, so now he has no spare to sell. Zoe tells him not to worry, as she's willing to wait and even pay double for his next harvest. He confesses his love for her, and she does the same. The fortune teller was right. Her journey was hard and long, but it made her dream come true. Now, she gets her own lab with the love of her life by her side.